Greetings, baseball fans. Four Friends 1679 here. Gonna be honest, this was not the video I'd planned to do tonight. I did want to do one video in between divisions here that wasn't another team. This was not the one I had planned. I had hoped to do a segment on later and hopefully would have been able to gather my thoughts and organize them more carefully, maybe write a full script, who knows. But the events of yesterday kind of mean it's very relevant, and yeah, I feel like, you know, let's just go ahead and do this now. Of course, yesterday, Rob Manfred reinstated Pete Rose, all 8 Chicago Black Sox, and like a dozen other guys that you've never heard of, I didn't know, and that nobody cared about, that were all on baseball's permanently ineligible list, presumably for gambling. I mean, obviously Rose and the Black Sox. I assume the other guys were all there for gambling, but correct me if I'm wrong. And I guess I want to, you can tell from the somber mood that I'm in that this is not something I'm really happy about. But it's not as simple as that. I'd like to give my thoughts on the whole thing, and then I want to hear your thoughts. I want to put it out there, put my position out there, and then I want to hear what you have to say about it. So honestly, I'm against the whole decision. I'm just going to put it right out there up front so you understand where I'm coming from with my biases and everything. I think this was a terrible idea by Manfred, and I think it can only do harm to the game, ultimately. I don't think the game benefits at all from this, and I think it can only do harm. I don't know that it will do harm, but I think it can only do harm. Now, I want to say, as I expressed this on Facebook and other social media sites, YouTube comments, whatever, I had more than a couple people say that I was a hater or that I was angry. Oh, you're just angry. And I feel like hater and angry are just words that people on the internet love to use to shut down discussion. And in truth, I'm definitely not angry. I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I think actually I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. Rob Manfred has managed to disappoint me yet again. And don't tell me you can't relate to that feeling of being disappointed in a decision made by Rob Manfred or Rob Manfred's judgment. And as for being a hater, I guess that's a good segue into talking about Rose. I was there. I was a kid when this whole thing unraveled. In 1989, I was 15 years old. The summer of 89, as this was all unraveling in the media, and Giamatti signed an agreement with Rose, essentially admitting what he did, but not admitting guilt. It was like a plea of no contest, even though, it was a guilty admission, and he agreed to a permanent ban. Remember that word? We're coming back to it later. And I was 15 years old, and I had started collecting baseball cards and following baseball really just religiously. I was a baseball addict, and to this day. I mean, started at age 12, so I'm 3 years in at this point. I've been following the game. I've been studying it. I've been reading books. I've been collecting baseball cards. You can see a lot of them behind me. And I started collecting in 86, and that meant that the 86 cards were all about the previous season, so it was all Pete Rose record breakers and Pete Rose highlights, and Pete Rose was a big deal the year that I started following baseball, and he was still an active player in 86, so I was just eating everything up about Pete Rose. And it's not real, guys, don't worry. It's a fake. But I ate up everything about Pete Rose. I have every Pete Rose card back to 78 because I have all the complete sets. You can see them behind me. But I also had individual cards, I think going back to 79. I was looking for them earlier. I actually can't find them. They're not in my Hall of Fame binder over here because he's not in the Hall of Fame. Although if they put him in, I suppose I'll put him in the binder. I have Roberto Alomar in there, so it's not like I have to like the guy. I recognize the Hall of Fame. I defer to their judgment, ultimately. I wish more people did. But I loved Pete Rose. And I knew everything about Pete Rose. I knew his whole career. I knew the teams, the 75 Reds, all of it. I loved Pete Rose. And when it happened, my first reaction was denial. I was a kid. No, this is bullshit, whatever. But came to accept it. But I spent most of my teen years, college years, and most of my adult life defending Rose and actually either outright calling that it was BS and he should be put back in, or that cynically they'll put him in the year after he dies. And that is now a distinct possibility. I think they're going to make him wait till the era committee comes around, whatever. But I said that for years, just as a joke. And I'm not happy to be right about it. But I defended him. And my argument was the classic one, not how great he was. That's irrelevant. Talking about, he's the all-time hit leader and he has all these records and Charlie Hustle and he played the game right. That's an irrelevant argument for reinstating or putting him in the Hall of Fame because nobody ever debated that. Of course, that's a given. Of course he was a great player. Of course he's the all-time leader and he has all these records and most 200 hit seasons, most 600 at-bat seasons, most positions, 500 more games, longest National League hitting streak, all-time singles leader, all-time hit leader, all-time National League doubles leader. I could keep going. So talking about how great Pete Rose was is irrelevant. We all know that. That's why we're talking about him at all. So there's no point in going down that. But I did point out that I bought into the myth making. He didn't bet against his own team. He would never do that. Don't believe that. Don't believe that. But here's what you can believe, and here's the admission here. There was no evidence that he bet against his own team. He was never really accused of betting against his own team. So we'll collectively accept that he never bet on his own team. We don't need the myth making for that. There's no evidence that he did, so don't tell me about how he was such a competitor. He would never. You don't know what a human being would or would never do. That's childhood myth making right there. But I was a child and a big fan, and I said he bet on his team to win, and it looked like he bet every single day because a lot of the adults in my life that were more baseball oriented and not just parents of me and my friends would point out that if you didn't bet consistently, that you could be saving your better players for when you did bet, and you could be tanking in games that you don't bet, and but it looked like he bet every single game. So, I mean, really, that just means he violated the rule 162 times. But I always felt that he violated the letter of the law, but not the spirit of it. That there was no reason to think that that it was influencing his decisions on the field. As far as I was concerned, as a kid and as a fan and as a young adult, most of my adult life, honestly. I'm 51 now. So this is going on from 15 to 51. I've been following this and talking about it with people on the internet and friends and other baseball fans all over the country. And that was my argument, essentially. And it was strange that a lot of people I encountered, even Reds fans, didn't buy into it. I was always disappointed that Johnny Bench was always so hard on him. I'm not so much now. I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm more well-informed. But I just felt that maybe he figured out a way to follow the spirit of the law while breaking the letter of it. There's a couple of problems with that, though. It turns out, actually, he didn't bet every single day. And this is known. You can look it up. There's many articles floating around there. I might link one in the comment if I can find it, but if I don't, you can find this stuff. They have all the betting slips from 1987, and there were 4 games that he placed bets, but no bets on his team, no bets on baseball that day. And he lost all 4 games. Now, the person writing the article was implying that there could have been something fishy going on, and one of the first comments under it, because it's the internet, you write something, people comment, was, "You don't know anything about managing a baseball team." Okay, and actually I think it was fair if the guy was implying that clearly he tanked those games because Bill Gullickson was pitching and he didn't have confidence in him. He used Bill Shearer, a relief pitcher, in all 4 games who was having a terrible year. At one point, like earlier in the season, his ERA was over 6, and he kept using him in these games. Certainly looked like he was tanking. But here's the thing. I know that I've probably managed. I've never managed human beings on a baseball team, but I've managed probably 10,000 or more simulated games and simulated seasons on PC Action Baseball, Tony La Russa Baseball, Earl Weaver, going back all the way to Micro League Baseball and the Commodore 64. The more recent games, require that you rest your players, and they will have penalties if your pitchers are not rested, if your hitters are not rested. So I'm not saying that that means that I know how to manage human beings, but I understand the strategy of giving a guy a day off. And gee, my 3 best relief pitchers, I've used them 4 nights in a row. I got to go with my starter to the 7th inning, no matter what the score is, and I'm going to use this bum, this mop-up guy, no matter what happens, because I have to rest my pitchers. And perhaps, and I think reasonably so, that's what Pete Rose was doing on those 4 nights. He knew, hey, Parker and Davis haven't had a day off in a while, and Franco, I used him 5 nights in a row, and Gullickson, I don't need faith in him. Gullickson didn't have a terrible season, but it was an off year. And so I don't think his gambling influenced his baseball decisions. I think his conscious baseball decisions influenced his gambling. He looked at the lineup card and said, I don't really like my chances tonight. No sense placing a bet. Okay, fine. But here's where it goes bad, and here's why I cannot defend him anymore based on those 4 games. You're a bookie. Rose has bet 50 games in a row. Suddenly he doesn't place a bet, and he loses. And then a month goes by, and he places a bet every day, and then another day he doesn't place a bet. Now wait a minute, you remember what happened last time, because this is rare for him. He always places a bet. He doesn't place a bet. And you notice it's the same starting pitcher, and he uses the same relief pitcher. And you go, okay. I mean, that's a tell right there if you're a bookie. And you got to remember, this wasn't like sportsbook.com like it is now. I'm old, forgive me. But this is the mob. Okay, this is the mob who he's gambling. This is illegal gambling. So, these guys are shrewd. And they notice, every time he doesn't place a bet, Gullickson's pitching, he uses sheer, and he kind of tanks. So the 3rd time it happens, don't tell me that they weren't like, hey guys, I think the fix is in. Run up the I don't know that happened, but I mean, if you're a bookie and if this isn't intentional, but you don't notice you're not very good at your job. So imagine if they're sitting here going, hey, 4th game, the fix is in, we got it, guys, 3 games in a row, what happens if he wins? What happens if he doesn't place the bet and the bookies all think the fix is in and he wins? Because he can't control everything. Obviously a manager can tank the lineup and whatnot, but on any given day, right? It's baseball. No team has ever been swept for the whole season by any other team. I don't care how bad you are. I don't care how bad your pitcher is. No pitcher ever went 0 for the whole season. Any pitcher can have a bad night. Any pitcher can have a good night. Any hitter can suddenly just go on a tear and knock in a pair of 3-run homers. Who knows? It's baseball. Weird things happen. Okay? All the time. So he could have won one of those games, and then what do? You're a bookie. This guy owes you money. He was tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, in debt to these guys. And you send him a signal, and then you screw him like that? You're telling me that the bookies would not then lean back on him? Hey, don't you ever do that. They'd threaten him, and they have leverage over him now. Now there's an animosity here, and they have leverage over him. He owes them money, and they know that if they leak, he's out, he's banned, so they own him. And now, this is what we're talking about when we say the integrity of the game. The integrity of the game as an actual competition, as something that is not scripted, like wrestling, not fixed, like boxing, but an actual competition that you're watching unfold organically in front of you is threatened by the fact that this guy allowed this influence into his clubhouse, into his dugout, into his life. And at that point, you're not just betting on baseball. You're not just associating with gamblers. You're actually actively colluding at that point. I know people will roll their eyes at that. I'm not saying that I know for a fact he was intentionally sending a signal. No, I don't think he was. There's no evidence that he was. Okay, I'll accept that. If there is, tell me, and my feelings will get stronger. But it is sending a signal, and it is tipping them off to something, and it did happen 4 times in a row. The thing about the integrity of the game is that baseball doesn't want to have to figure out what you did. It doesn't want to have endless debates about whether or not Joe Jackson was really trying hard. After all, he got all those hits, and he never made an error, and he hit the only home run in the World Series, so he didn't do anything. They don't want to figure that out. They don't want to have to unravel that and unpack all that. That's why you bet, you're out. Period. Permanent ban. Okay? And so once I kind of understood that better, I had all of the information now, and I had a different kind of a take. I converted. No, Pete Rose cannot be reinstated. Ever. Ever. There's no reason to, there's no argument for it. Never. And I went from a Rose supporter to a Rose, not hater, but I mean, I'll get to that. Hold on. So basically, yeah, for that point of view, you really can't defend his actions anymore, spirit of the law or anything like that. Nope. He broke the rule. He knew he broke the rule. He knew what the penalty was. And he was never, you might recall that for like 15 years after the fact, he never admitted it publicly. He always denied it or wouldn't talk about it. And I liked him at the time, but looking back, I will say that Jim Gray ambush interview in the 1999 All-Star game, All-Century Team, whatever announcement, that was BS. That was unprofessional. Gray was trying to get a score, get his little... That was a dick move. You don't do that. That wasn't the time or the place. And then he doesn't admit what he did or express any regret or doubt or apology or anything until he writes a book and he can make a buck off it. Now that, you're into arrogant douchebag territory, and he spent the rest of his life essentially whining and acting entitled and acting like he was the victim, but he's not. He's not the victim. He knew what he was doing. He's an adult. He's not a child. So a couple of the other arguments that you hear a lot of, he was punished enough. And I earlier today I was having a discussion with a guy who also was like me. He idolized Pete Rose as a kid, emulated him when he played, Little League and whatnot. Really loved him. And he said, yeah, I was heartbroken when it happened. But this guy also, he struggled. He talked in this post. It was very moving, and I appreciate it. He talked about his struggles with addiction and how his life kind of fell apart. And he says, look, I got my stuff back together, and I've forgiven myself. My family's forgiven me. My society's forgiven me. If I deserve that, Pete Rose didn't wreck his family with drug addiction, I guess. I mean, there are other things. Leave that for another time. But for now. But he's like, why can't we forgive Rose? And here's the thing, why? Has he been punished enough? The answer is that's not really the right question. It doesn't really matter because this was never about punishing Pete Rose. Ever. Okay? I'm serious. This is not about punishing Pete Rose. Pete Rose cannot be punished enough because this isn't about punishing Pete Rose. You punish somebody, whether it's a child who's misbehaving or a teen who is rebellious or a person who has broken the law, you punish them for the purpose of changing their behavior. Okay? Your teen, snuck a beer, so you're grounded for 2 weeks and no phone. And you do that to try to put some values in him and change his behavior. That's what punishment is for. Even prison is, in theory, that, in practice, doesn't work out so well, but that's the point of punishment, is to change someone's behavior. Reward and punishment, that's what that's all about. But the moment that Pete Rose signed that agreement with Bart Giamatti and admitted, at least to Giamatti, that yes, these are basically true as stated, at that moment it ceased to be about Pete Rose forever. Major League Baseball did not give one boiling shit about Pete Rose ever again. They never gave him a second thought. He's done, he's out. Now, what we do is about protecting, and I'm going to keep saying it, but at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you why, try to win you over on this one, the integrity of the game. Okay, from this outside influence specifically, in this instance. That's all, again, they're not trying to protect it from PEDs or banging trash cans or spitballs or corked bats or anything else. Just gambling, but that's fine. That's what he did, and that's what they're punishing him for, but they're not. He is being made an example of to serve as a deterrent to other players. And by the way, let's be very clear. I said the word permanent ban quite a few times. A lot of people are saying, well, he served his lifetime ban. His life is over. He died. Now the lifetime ban should be lifted. It was never, lifetime ban is a media colloquialism. It's shorthand. It's something people say, but it's not. Don't say that, because you're going to sound dumb to anybody who actually knows what they're talking about. You can read the rule. Go Google it, rule. I'm going to put it up. Google it, because it doesn't say the player shall receive a lifetime ban. It says permanent ban. And I had one person try to tell me, well, that wasn't what was in Pete Rose's agreement. So I looked that up because that's also publicly available. And it also says permanent ban, not lifetime. Lifetime is, we banned for life or whatever. That's just a shorthand, a colloquialism. It's not what he agreed to, and it's not what the rule says. It's permanent, okay? Is the punishment too harsh? Or is the rule obsolete? Or is it just a dumb rule? I'm not really a rules guy. One of the things that, as I was trying to defend Rose, a lot of the parents in my life, my parents, but also my friends' parents, I remember my friend Paul's mom in particular had said almost these exact words, but that's the rule. He broke the rule. He knew the rule. He broke the rule. This is the punishment. That's the rule. Now, in most cases in life, I'm not a real that's the rule kind of guy. I think there are a lot of dumb rules. In baseball, let's talk about the Yankees' prohibition of beards or the Reds' prohibition of beards and mustache, all facial hair. I think it's a dumb rule. Every time I point out something about the Yankees having a dumb rule, somebody chimes in and says, well, they have the right to make the rules. Yes, they do. That doesn't require me to think it's a good rule. I think it's a dumb rule. Okay. Players have to abide by it. And they don't anymore. The Yankees changed that this season. But again, to me, that's an example, perfect example, of a dumb rule. Is this a dumb rule? No, it's not. If you think for a moment about how much visceral hatred the 2017 Astros get for cheating and banging trash cans and whatever, and this is for something, stealing signs it is part of the game, not the way they did it, I get it, but this isn't even like PEDs. And you talk about Barry Bonds for the Hall of Fame, you talk about Jose Altuve, anything. People will hate. They express hatred for the team, for the players, and if that much hatred can still be felt 8 years later, guys, it's been 8 years. Get over it. They beat my Red Sox that year, and I'm over it. I didn't even care about it at the time, but whatever. My point is, people feel strongly about that. Well, imagine how could baseball recover if a playoff game or the World Series or even just a series of games during the season that everybody thought was really exciting and it was a great year, and then you find out a bunch of them were fixed, scripted. Guys, the sport would not recover from that. The fans would be so betrayed, and then integrity of the game, everything you see from that point forward, you can't cheer because you don't know if it's legitimate or not. You don't know if that home run in the ninth inning was because the relief pitcher was told, groove the fastball so he can knock it out of the park. Baseball loses everything that makes it exciting. It's not that visually exciting a game. Like, you can have a game like the Harlem Globetrotters because basketball can be fun to watch. You can have a spectacle like wrestling because the show that they put on is exciting. Baseball's not like that. Baseball isn't that visually exciting a sport. So all it has is that the product you're watching is legitimate. If that's... And I remember even on Facebook, there was a guy, when the Dodgers won the World Series last year, somebody posted, Dodgers win just like it was scripted. And I am like, dude, that is a dangerous accusation. Do not throw that around lightly. And baseball does not take it lightly, hence the rule, hence the punishment. And by the way, the other thing about rules is the reasoning behind the rule is important. Okay, and by that what I mean is, what is it trying to prevent? Because if they just came up with this out of the blue, they were just writing the rule book and they decided, yeah, if you bet, ban for life, or whatever, permanently banned, sorry. See, I do it too. And they were trying to protect against some theoretical, philosophical future possibility. Well, what are the odds the World Series will ever be fixed? Well, it's 100% because what they're protecting against has already happened. This isn't some theoretical thing that might happen or could have. It did happen. Major League Baseball is not trying to prevent the World Series from being fixed. It's trying to prevent the World Series from being fixed again. It already happened, and it was a huge scandal and a huge blow to the sport. And the sport is a business too. So I mean, the bottom line is threatened. They're going to take it seriously, and they do take it seriously. And ultimately, I think that this is the reason why Pete Rose's banishment should have been upheld permanently is because it is the ultimate example. The very fact that he was so great, all the records, all the playing, he was universally loved as a player by fans, not by other players. A lot of players didn't like him. He was brash, he would trash talk, he'd play physical, dirty sometimes, ask Ray Fosse. But I mean, fans love this, and fans to this day love this. I mean, you go, I'm going to cite baseball cards. Pick any top set, from the 70s or the 80s or whatever, and if you look at all the players in that set who started in the early 1960s, and you look at the value of their cards, Pete Rose's cards and Nolan Ryan's, he and Ryan and then Mickey Mantle from earlier, three of the most popular players ever, and Rose was loved. And he still is to this day by a lot of fans. Right or wrong, I don't necessarily want to talk about too much about Rose, the person, for now, because I don't really think it's that relevant. I don't know. But, I guess that's a good point. He wasn't being kept out of the Hall of Fame because of his tax evasion, or his douchebag attitude, or even that he slept with a 14-year-old girl when he was in his 30s. That's not an allegation, by the way, because when confronted with this, his answer was, I thought she was 16. Now, that was legal in Ohio at the time, and you can say different world all you want. Do you have a daughter? Do you want her sleeping with a 30-year-old man? I don't care who he is. Again, let's not forget our humanity too much here. Finally, there is this whole thing, the other really poor judgment shown by Manfred is all of these licensing agreements and advertising agreements, sponsorship agreements that Major League Baseball now has with FanDuel and Sportsbook and all of these online gambling apps. And it may seem odd to some people to see these logos plastered all over this pitching change brought to you by FanDuel. And yet we're gonna be all up in arms about Pete Rose. But here's the thing about, is the rule obsolete? Is it pointless? Whatever. With gambling so ubiquitous in the sport now, and that is not a great thing, the threat is that much greater. The importance that you have the ultimate deterrent. And what could be a greater deterrent than the fact that you banned the all-time hit leader? If I'm a player sitting in the dugout because I'm not starting, because I'm on the bench and I'm like, hey, I got gambling on my phone. I bet I can bet my guy will strike out in the next at bat. I'm not even going to think about it, because if they'll ban the all-time hit leader, who the hell am I? It's the ultimate deterrent. Nobody, if they're not going to let Pete Rose get away with it, you ain't going to get away with it, period. And it's the ultimate example. And what Manfred did, not just in reinstating Rose, but all 8 of the Black Sox, and we're going to move on to them next very briefly, and all these other guys that nobody was even asking for, he basically gutted, just emasculated the ultimate deterrent. He made the ultimate deterrent something other than that. He softened it, he weakened it, and maybe a player still knows he could get permanently banned, but it really sends the wrong message. It sends every bit as wrong a message as having all these logos of gambling apps all over the ballpark. But, now, is this a bad look? Yes, it is. Is it hypocrisy? Yeah, I'll give you that. But is it an argument for reinstating Pete Rose? No. It's an argument for banning Rob Manfred, which, if that's what you're making, I'm with you 100%. Let's move on now. I think that's enough about Rose. I'll give you a look at the card one more time. It's a fake. It's a fake. I got a Mickey Mantle and a Honus Wagner back there behind me. You've probably seen them in some of the videos. They're fake too. Let's talk about the Black Sox. So he also reinstated all 8 Black Sox. Now the Black Sox never bet. They took money and they threw the 1919 World Series. We all know this. It's very, very well-known story, and some people really dug deep into it. I read the book 8 Men Out. It's probably on a shelf somewhere behind me. And there's been a movie made out of it. The movie's kind of boring, and I say that as a huge fan of the history of the game, but the book is excellent, and you should read it, 8 Men Out. I could understand reinstating Jackson, because a lot of people don't think he did anything wrong. They think, he took money. No, it was forced on him. he still took it, guys, and they lost. Oh, he set a record for hits in the World Series. Yeah, but he had 9 games to do it. So, also, he did not drive in that many runs. He did not get those hits when the game was on the line. I've never been one to think that a guy could break a record for hits not trying. So I understand the argument, but again, he did not blow the doors off the conspiracy. He did ultimately walk away with money, and his team lost. I mean, it looks pretty bad for him. But a lot of people think Jackson was more sympathetic. So fine, reinstate Jackson. Buck Weaver, absolutely, I could understand that. I don't agree with it, but I did for a long time, because Buck Weaver's only crime was not being a rat. He didn't take money, and he was not part of the conspiracy to throw the game. He just knew of it. He was in a meeting, he walked out, he didn't want any part of it. Told him to, The problem was he didn't rat on his teammates. Now, I can appreciate not being a rat. I'm not a rat myself. I mind my own business, and I let people sort that out. I'm not a rat. And I can appreciate not being a rat. But here's the problem. The World Series was fixed, and baseball's like, how did this happen? And then they find out that this guy could have blown the doors off the whole thing, blown it wide open, prevented he was in a unique position to prevent the whole thing from happening, and he did nothing? I mean, I don't have to agree with the decision to understand where it comes from. And I do kind of agree with it, I guess. At the end of the day, if I'm Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, I probably do the same thing. Sorry. And maybe Eddie Seacott, because he was screwed over by Comiskey. Maybe Lefty Williams, because his family was threatened. Supposedly he was going to go into the last game and he was just going to say, to hell with these guys, and pitch his heart out. But then somebody called in a threat on his wife or something. Maybe it was a bluff, but it spooked him. That's the story in the book anyway. And so he goes and he blows it. But Chick Gandil? He reinstated Chick Gandil? Chick Gandil's own mother didn't want Chick Gandil reinstated. And if you don't understand the incredulousness at the idea that he would reinstate Chick Gandil, you don't understand the story. Chick Gandil was a thug. Chick Gandil was the guy that the gamblers approached because they knew he was the most easily corruptible, pissed off, greedy, thuggish guy. And then Chick Gandil took their money and took the offer and organized the conspiracy with the players. And he was the go-between he was the architect on the player side of the whole conspiracy. Why would you reinstate Chick Gandil? Makes zero sense. But anyway, even with Jackson and Weaver, this is why baseball has a zero tolerance policy, because it doesn't want to have to figure out who did what, or if they actually did it. They don't even want the appearance of impropriety. And so, and remember, this is not something they're afraid of happening. This is something that already happened. Now, as for the other guys, I don't know anything about them. I could look them up, but again, I was kind of rushed into this, so I hope this wasn't too rambling for y'all. We're just about done. There were a dozen other guys that, nobody was even asking to be. He basically said, yeah, permanent ban. Nah, it's not really a permanent ban. Wrong message to send. Now, the other thing, the people that should be pissed off the most about this is not the fans of either camp. There are actually a lot of Rose supporters who are expressing anger because they wanted it when he was still alive, and to hell with you, Manfred, waiting until now. So the people who like Rose are angry. The people that don't like Rose are angry. Congratulations, Rob Manfred. You have managed to piss everybody off yet again. But if I'm the Hall of Fame, that is the group of people who I think should be most irritated by this, truly angry, because prior to this, they took the relatively neutral, perfectly defensible, respectable approach of saying, we defer to Major League Baseball. And they have already, by the time Rose was banned, they already had a long-standing unofficial policy of not even considering Jackson and Weaver and Seacott and Williams and all the other, Felsh and all the other guys. Okay, that was already their policy, but it was unofficial, and they made it official because a lot of people at the time that Rose was banned and was coming up for the election, there was a hubbub about, well, maybe just because he's banned doesn't mean he can't be in the Hall of Fame. There's no rule. Well, they made a rule, and a lot of people thought they made it just for Rose, but it had already been their practice. And in punting it back to MLB, they essentially washed their hands of it. It was really an easy position for them to take. We respect MLB. That's not really controversial. They act like their hands are tied. And nobody is asking the Hall of Fame to do anything special. They're off the hook. It's all about the commissioner of baseball, which is where it should be. He's in the leadership position. That's what he's paid. He's paid to take the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and deal with the pissed off fans and all of that. That's his job. And Manfred, this is a dereliction of duty, because now the Hall of Fame is in a position of putting these guys in potentially when the era committee comes around and Pete Rose is up, I think 2028, if they go with the normal rotation and don't do anything special. 2028, I believe, is the first year he would be on a ballot, in theory. Now, if Johnny Bench is on that team, he's not getting in. I don't know who's on the committee for 2028, but and we probably won't until then. But the thing is, they now are in a position of either pissing off all of the people who don't want Rose in and disagree with this decision, or leaving him out and really pissing off the people who are like, what excuse do you have now? And so inevitably, the Hall of Fame now is going to take the blame for this from half of the fan base, because it is a pretty close to 50-50 split. And I think by 2028, it's really going to be close to 50. With him passing away earlier this year, sympathies are at an all-time high for Pete Rose. So I think by 2028, it's going to be back down about 50-50, and people like me are going to be aggravated if he gets in. Although, again, I'll still put his baseball cards in my binder. I mean, I have Roberto Alomar in there. I have worse people in there, so okay. But can the Hall of Fame say, you know what? We're not going to change anything. Once on the banned list, always on the banned list in our eyes. I mean, they could do that, but I don't expect them to. And that would aggravate a lot of people. And then putting them on the ballot and putting them in the first chance they get would also aggravate a lot of people. So they're put in this position. I'll accept what happens. I wanted to put all that out there. Those are my feelings on it. No one is as passionate as a convert, and I converted from pro Rose to pro integrity of the game. Now, protecting the integrity of the game. This is a phrase that it gets thrown around a lot, and in this day and age, a lot of people will roll their eyes at it. And I think a lot of people don't really know what it means, because they talk about all the corked bats and the stubs and on the ball and PEDs and all the cheating and everyone's betting and nobody matters and everybody's rotten and it's all corrupt. None of that matters, because the integrity of the game simply means that what you're seeing is organic, that what you're seeing is actually the thing you saw. It wasn't fixed, it wasn't scripted, it wasn't staged. It is a real baseball game, and everybody is trying their damnedest to do their best. And you are watching this unfold. That's all it means. Now, if you want to expand this to the greater thing about integrity, here's the thing about Rose. I mean, again, this guy never was apologetic or humble at all. He was a brash, arrogant douchebag to his deathbed about this. Whiny, playing the victim. Even if you support him, you can't deny that that's how he was. Come on. Even if you wanted him to be in, you can't deny that's how he was. And that's how he played, too. I mean, he was brash and aggressive when he played, so of course it carries over. But, you know, again, the sleeping with the underage girl, the drugs, the tax evasion, all that other stuff. I mean, when we talk about integrity, I know a lot of you don't think it matters. And I know a lot of you think, well, the Hall of Fame has already let in other cheaters. What do they know about integrity? If you've never been to the Hall of Fame, I bought this sweatshirt last October at the Hall of Fame. Last October, we took a road trip and we stopped at Cooperstown. I went to the Hall of Fame. First time I'd been there in a long time. But it really is one of my favorite places. And when you walk into the Hall of Fame Museum, and by the way, there's plenty of Pete Rose stuff in the Hall of Fame Museum already. His jersey, the ball, the shoes, the hat, the bat, all this stuff. There's all kinds of exhibits about Pete Rose in the Hall, and Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame already. Okay. But there's no plaque in the hall itself. There's a museum, and then there's the actual hall where they have all the bronze plaques. There's no plaque, obviously. When you walk into the Hall of Fame, though, first of all, if you're in the Hall of Fame and you're not a 10-year-old kid again, you might as well be dead. If walking through the museum, and even the hall, but the hall's like, the museum is what's cool to me. If walking through there does not bring you back to your 10-year-old self, you are already dead. Just lie down and get it over with. Because when you walk in there, all of that cynicism, all of that world weariness and hardness just washes away. And for a moment, all is good. Now, in the lobby of the Hall of Fame, it's a very plain room. It's a big, empty, white room. There's literally nothing there except the reception desk and one exhibit. 3 statues. And on the wall behind the statues is a blurb. If I can find it, I'll add it, but if I can't, it basically is talking about integrity, talking about character, courage, sacrifice. Okay? And the 3 statues are of Lou Gehrig, Jackie Robinson, and Roberto Clemente. And there's that blurb about courage and character and sacrifice. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, how can you take that world weariness and that real world cynicism with you past those 3 men? It tells me that it matters a great deal to the people that run the Hall of Fame, which is not Major League Baseball, by the way. They have no official affiliation. The Hall of Fame is an independent, nonprofit museum. And they clearly do take it seriously. It matters. And they say it right when you walk in the door. And so when you want to say these things don't matter, because that's easy in this world. There's a lot of that going around. And I get it. I get it. I mean, it's pretty hard to wax idealistic about anything these days. But that goes away when you walk in there. And if that doesn't fill you with that kind of inspirational childhood innocence and glee and joy again, I mean, Jesus, you might as well already be dead. Anyway, that's what I want to say on it. I mean, I do want to hear what everyone has to say. I imagine there's going to be a lot of people that are happy about this. That's fine if you are. I ask that you think about what I've said, and I ask that you post your comments in a thoughtful way yourself. I will answer, maybe, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't necessarily think we need to beat this dead horse to death anymore. But I think I've laid out my feelings, like I've laid out the facts as I understand them behind my arguments. So, yeah, that's it. That's what I got. We'll be back, I hope in a few days. It might be as long as a week with the next all-time team. And there will be other videos like this. Hopefully you guys either like these or can tolerate them. Like and subscribe, all of that. And, yeah, good night.